We just jumped right into the whole conversation. I didn't even get a chance to let you introduce yourself. I'm sorry. I'm enjoying the conversation
Well,
already, by
well,
the
you,
way. But
well,
if you will, please, sir, just let everybody know who you are.
you can call me Jerome. Right now, I'm 63. Uh, born in South Carolina, grew up in New York City. Left New York City in 1987, came to Philadelphia. A couple years later, I met my wife. Started working, worked mental health most of my life. I was at the racetrack actually one day, Garden State Park in New Jersey. Someone said, your father said you need a job. Filled out application, got my first mental health job. Met my wife at the place that I was working. Got married. Everything was going good. And then, lo and behold, one day I lost my job. After losing my job, a friend of mine said, yeah, man, you still got that Larson you had? I said, yeah. He said, I know somebody that might want to get that off of you. I said, nah, man, I can't be selling no guns that I have, man. Time passes along, pockets got a little bit lighter, and I called my buddy up. Sadly, it's kind of ironic. He passed away about a few months ago. But he says to me, Bam, my man, I'm gonna take you down here to my man. I took the serial number off of the Larson because I wanted to trace it back to me. But as we talk, I'll explain to you how some firearm companies make it almost impossible to take the serial numbers off, and some of them make it so easy. It's almost like you're thinking like, yeah, they know that this going to go into the illegal market. We
Mm.
removed the serial numbers. I gave him the gun. He came back out with $300. I had paid $50 for the gun. Took the 300, went back up to the gun shop, bought I think three or four of them, removed the serial number, sold those. And then for the first time in a long time, I had a little bit of money in my pocket.
Mm.
As time passed on, I started, my buddy started saying, oh, let's go to this gun shop, let's go to that gun shop. Then I started seeing that some of the higher caliber weapons, because when the what they call it, the Iron Curtain or whatever, when the wall came down to Germany, a lot of those countries had AK-47s. So what they
Mm.
did was they made them they had the SKS, which was the same caliber as the AK-47. They imported those weapons into America in a semi automatic format. The SKS was under $100. The Mac 90s, which was a copy of the AK-47, was somewhere between $125 and $180, depending on where you went to. Now you could take this copy of the AK-47 and take it down to the hood. The gun now, just remember, you paid maybe $125 for it and sell it for anywhere between $800 to $2,000.
Wow.
And it was hundreds of those guns in the gun shops. Now, most of the guys on the street didn't know that this little AK copy, you only paid $125 for it. Now let me give you something. When you bought the rifle, which this was considered a rifle, you didn't
Mm.
have to. You filled out the yellow ATF form. I can't remember what the designation of that form was. You just filled that form out. The ATF wasn't notified that you just bought this gun. You could buy 10 of them, and they didn't have to call the ATF. I found that out later on down the road after had been dealing with handguns. Handguns, if you buy two or more, they have to inform the ATF.
Wait, so you can buy up to, if I'm understanding the math right, you can buy up to 10 rifles
20, 30, 40.
and ATF won't bat an eye, but the minute that you buy two handguns, they
That's
start
back
freaking
up.
out.
The store does not have to inform the ATF that you bought those. They just have to keep the yellow form in the store on file. If you buy handguns, two or more, they have to inform the ATF that you bought two or more handguns. But the rifles, they don't have to inform the ATF that you just came in and bought 10 copies of the AK 47, which actually fires the same round as the AK 47. the 7.62 by 39 or something like 339, I think it is.
Sorry, I'm still trying to process that. That's crazy. So it's perfectly fine to go ahead and supply a small army with a bunch of rifles, and the store is not going to bat an eye. But the minute you want to just have something to carry every day to protect yourself, then they got to. Okay.
And let me say this. Now, when I got indicted, and we'll get to that at some point. When I
Mhm.
got indicted, I had a one-page indictment, and my indictment said I sold 150 plus firearms to drug dealers and other criminals. Now, just think about this. When the ATF arrested me, I had been doing this for years. They knew for years I was doing it. They had when they did Operation Sunrise in Philadelphia, the prosecutor told my lawyer that my name came up 7 times the first morning Operation Sunrise. And let me say this: when the feds come, and it's a saying in federal prison, there's two kinds of motherfuckers, and excuse my language, two kinds of people in federal prison: those who told, those who eventually wish they ass told. So when the feds come, they have dozens of people ready to cooperate and give any information they have about other people committing crimes.
Mm.
So the prosecutor said 7 times my name came up. They got several individuals to go before a grand jury to get me indicted. But the information they had it 2 or 3 years before they arrested me.
Mm.
Why is that? They knew I was going to every gun shop, uh, Montgomery County, Bucks County, Philadelphia County. I was known by every gun dealer at every gun show I was known. Oh yeah,
Wow.
that's the oh Lou. They called me Lou Gossett. Some of them. It's a gun shop in Philly. They called me Lou Gossett, and some of them said, oh yeah, he looked like Lou Gossett. Oh yeah, the guy, man, he looked like Lou Gossett, and they knew what ATF knew what I was doing. One time I went to buy a calico. Calico, if you probably know what a calico is. A lot of
Yeah.
viewers may not. Calico holds something like 109 millimeter rounds. I had filled out the paperwork. I was getting ready to walk out. The guy snatched the calico from me and said, "Yo, this guy said you got to call him." I called the number. It was Don Johnson. That was actually one of the ATF agents' name. He said, "Oh, I know you're selling guns." I said, "Fuck you," and hung up on him. Out at the gun shop, went across the street and bought something out the other store. So they knew what I was doing. They asked some gun shops to not sell me guns, but they kept selling. So, but my point is, I bought hundreds of guns. I was in my cell in FDC Philadelphia, and I said, let me see what I actually did. And I started writing down what I sold it. This guy, that guy, the other guy. It almost reached 500. I tore the paper up, flushed it down the toilet because I was like, oh my God, they're gonna get me.
Mm.
And I thought I was looking at a life sentence. And a friend of mine who was arrested for the same exact crime I was, we met in a computer store one day. He probably sold 1,000 guns. But the law
Wow.
said, now the law said, and this is what's crazy about the law. And I want this to be known. After selling guns, I started selling weed. I got arrested for selling weed, but that was orchestrated by the ATF because they wanted to try to get me in the sale of guns. I sold $40 worth of weed to two undercover officers. I received 2 to 4 years in prison twice. Now, the federal crime that they charged me with, it was punishable by only 5 years in prison. One, two, three, four, five. And it was a statutory maximum. They could not give me no more than 5 years for selling hundreds of guns. But they gave me 2 to 4 twice for selling $40 worth of freaking weed. Now add it up. I got the same thing for $40 worth of weed as I did for 500 guns.
Hmm.
That's your government at work, my friend.
I'm trying to be surprised, but it ain't working.
But I'll back up to what I was saying. my buddy, he introduced me to this world of illegal firearms. God bless his soul. He introduced me to illegal firearm sales. And he told me one day, he said, yo, man, the three things that sell the best in the hood: crack, guns, and pussy. He said, that's the best thing selling in the hood. So as I'm doing this illegal stuff, we're going to different gun shops, we're going to different gun shows. Me and one guy, we went to the gun show one day. The guy, he recognized me. He knew I was a big buyer. We bought are you familiar with the Cobra, the Mac 11, which is a smaller version of the Mac 10? It's called a Cobra. So the guy sold us these Cobras, and these firearm deals are slick. I'm going to show you what Cobra did. Cobra took the Mac 11, they welded a stock onto the back of it, and they elongated the barrel.
Mhm.
Now it was a rifle. Now what we did was took them home. We took the back butt off, sawed the barrel down. Now it was the same Cobra that they were the same Mac 11 they were selling in the store. This is the slickness of these dealers. So we went there, we bought virtually 10 of these things. I bought five, my buddy bought five. Then the guy said, no, don't go out the front door. I'll let y'all out the back. So the
Mhm.
gun dealer let us out the back door. We thinking the ATF's going to be waiting there. We get back to Philly. We look at each other like, did this really just freaking happen? Did this just happen? And now remember, I told you in the beginning, because they were rifles, they didn't have to report it to the ATF.
Wow. So if you wanted to, you could have went back and bought 20, 30,
No,
however
we
many
went
more you
back the
wanted.
next day and we got some more. We went on Saturday, brought the first lot, went back Sunday, bought the second lot. They was having a gun show up there in Berks County, Pennsylvania, outside of Harrisburg.
Wow.
I mean, you can't make you can't make this crap up. So you mean to tell me that the gun company did not know what they was doing? They put a stock on the back, elongated the barrel, made it 18 inches, which now is a rifle. They
I,
didn't know?
I it's kind of like we were talking about earlier, the whole brace ruling thing.
Yeah.
Uh like I have a Ruger PC Charger, right? It's supposed to be like the 9 millimeter more modern version of that the 1022. In a sense, it
Okay.
was kind of like a mini Ruger, but it was like a 22 caliber. So they modernized it, made it a 9 millimeter. And because of the brace ruling, since it's the barrel is easily less than 10 inches. I think it's like maybe, don't quote me on it, but like let's say the barrel is 6 inches, right? And it's a takedown. So they had the genius to put a pick rail at the back of the pistol just in case you wanted to put a brace on it, or if you wanted to go farther and go ahead and get your, I think it's your form stamps to make it a SBR, you could put a stock on it. But they left that option up to you. Like they knew what they were doing because they knew what the climate was in regards to braces, stocks, and just the rulings in general from the ATF. So,
Okay.
it, I mean, different times, but to me, nothing really changes because, money makes people find ways to do things,
I think
especially people who make a
yeah,
lot of money off of certain things. So,
I
you
know
know,
that's rough, but the gun dealers, they act like I know they know that if they don't have the illegal market, they're not going to make the money that they make. Because I remember when Smith and Wesson they bought a copy of the Glock out. What
mm,
they did was on the bottom side of the frame, on the bottom side, just forward of the trigger. It was a little what you call it, that a little box with the serial number on it. You could take a grinding stone, you go over top of it, it takes it off. But because it was what they call it, when you electro extra, how do you call that when you do the thing where like you etch it in electronically, but you don't stamp it. So once you
yeah,
took it off, you couldn't do an acid test to recover the serial number like if it had been stamped. Because it was not stamped, the acid test was useless. So you
Mm,
telling me that Smith and Wesson didn't know what they were doing, and they did that the gun would not be appealing to the market? These guns were selling for $295, brand new with 2 clips, brand new in the box, like $295. So you could
mm.
go to the store, you get one of these for $295. You could sell it anywhere between $500 to $1,000.
Wow.
But my buddy who introduced me to this firearm world, most of the time I gave him the gun, he went in and did the business. So one day I had a bunch of stuff and I was riding down the street, and I think that this is when, how they say, when the light switch went off.
Mm,
Because at first I was making a couple dollars, like I said, a couple dollars. I wasn't making no grand amount of money, then I would have to break him off on that. But one day I was riding down the street and I said to this guy, I said, yo, man, you seen Boo Boo? He was like, nah, man, what's up? You got something? I said, I was looking for, he said, yo, what you got? I said, I got a little, I got some K's, and I got some hand joints. He said, bring them in. They took me down in the basement. And I'll tell you this, the ATF asked me this. Said, why somebody never just robbed you and killed you? I said, I don't even know. They took me in the basement of this house. It was about 3 or 4 drug dealers. I had about 4 of those copies of the AK. I had about 3 or 4 handguns. And the guy picks up one of the Mac 90s. He said, you do 8 on these? I said, oh man. He said, come on, man. I done buy everything. So he said, if you do 8, that's 8 and 8 is 16. I said, oh. I'm thinking he talking about he want to do 800 for the 3. Come to find out, this black son of a, you know what? He been clipping me like this. And he added it up. And they bought all the drug dealer money out to pay me ones, fives, tens. And it was crazy. I left out there with a paper bag full of all this money. And I
Wow.
realized my homie had been clipping me.
Mm,
I said, okay. But see, I'm the kind of person, I'm not gonna run up on you and say nothing. I just know, like, you remember how Scarface, the guy said, I'll just know you ain't no good, you know what I'm saying? Like, kind of on that level, I know, like, I know you ain't shit. So
mm.
now I know, so now I don't mess with you no more. So now I'm rolling solo. And now I'm feeling a whole lot better because the money is feeling righteous. But the thing was, as you buying this shit, because a lot of it's being bought legally, the ATF is like, yo, look, man, you bought 4 handguns last week. Yo, look, trying to question my wife, just on my case. But I thought I would have, I'll be honest with you, I thought I was 2 shakes going to prison. So because I had did what I did on such a scale, it was like I said, fuck it. Ain't no need to, I might as well crank it up. I figured I was going to jail for life anyway. So when
Man.
I finally got arrested, it was shocking to me when because they took me to Farrington, FCI Farrington, and me and a guy who was selling crack, we went to the law library together. We gave the guy paperwork. And the guy said, oh man, you're in a lot of trouble, man. I said, oh shit, I knew. He said, oh no, you cool. He said, you only looking at 5 years, and he explained it to me. And I said, are you freaking serious? And then when the prosecutor got into the room one day, well, Your Honor, he's looking at 5 years. It's a shame that that's all we can give him. But as I said, and I'll back up, I kind of cranked it up once I found my homie had been robbing me. And, I said, oh man. So I started rolling around. And that's when Lou Gossett was on the move. Everybody started knowing me. And I just started wilding out. It's almost like, I'll say this crime. I don't care if it's drug dealing. I don't care if it's stealing. I don't care if it's selling guns. Crime is like a narcotic.
Mm.
As you start to break the law, you go into a mode to almost like if you using drugs. It's all, no matter how much you want to stop, it's almost like you can't stop. It's just narcotic, man. And because you're making money, now you're feeling better. and you're not thinking about the consequences and about the people you hurting, because now you barely could buy a pack of oodles and noodles, and now people know you. People want to act, and you get the false friendship, you get the false love from the ladies, and you feeling 100% better about yourself. That's why people don't understand why even drug dealing in certain communities is hard to get rid of, because once you're breaking the law and you're bringing in that money, your self-esteem goes up here. When it was down in the bottom, when you were walking around and you could barely afford to buy a pair of sneakers, but now you're in a situation where if you wanted to, you can go in the store and buy a Rolex. You can go buy a brand new Benz. So you feeling better about yourself now.
Hmm. I know initially you said that what kind of led you into it was whenever you lost your job. And kind of reminds me of like I was married at the time and divorced now. That's a long story. She was right. That's all I'm gonna say. But I had this tremendous weight on my shoulders. I guess you could say it was the weight of responsibility where you felt like you couldn't fail because you had other people relying on you. So, in saying that, was that something that also led you to a little bit or pushed you towards selling firearms because you felt that
Oh,
same weight of responsibility?
I think it was selfishness that, and I should have, instead of going in that direction, I should have cranked up in the opposite direction. But sometimes we'll take the easy way out, and we won't go ahead and do the hard push towards the other end. So all that energy that I put into that bullshit, I should have put into the other side. Because I remember my buddy, the one I told you, who introduced me to illegal firearm sales. He said, "Man," he said, "I'm telling you, once he found out I was running around the hood without him, people was like, 'Yeah, man, your boy was around here. Yeah, your boy was around here.'" He said, "Yo, man, if you want to see your kids, man, if you want to ever see your kids on the street again, yo, you better fall back." He said, I heard, man, you've been coming through with a lot of shit. Man, somebody gonna tell on you." He said, "You be messing with he said, because I was messing with a certain group of individuals, he said they was gonna tell on me. And the funny thing was, they told on me. They told on me. But sometimes, man, we take the easy way, because the right way sometimes is a hard way. Because when job interviews are like, I call it peacocking. You gotta put your suit on. Excuse me, you gotta put your suit on, you gotta get your shoes on, you gotta get your hair cut, you gotta look a particular way, you
Mhm.
gotta shine yourself up with Vaseline on your face to look like the best slave coming through the door.
Hmm.
And after a while, you go to this job. "Oh no, we'll don't call us, we'll call you." That, remember that slogan from years ago? Don't call
Yeah, it's
call you. So what happens is, when you do something where you spend $50 and now you made 300, you go spend 300 and you do the math. And then you flip that again. Then you flip that again. Even like and this is a little off topic. That's kind of how I got into the sale of marijuana, and that'll be for another day maybe. But you will buy on a pound of marijuana, and you do the math on this. On a pound of marijuana, you get $2,200 worth of nickel bags. If you bag it up in nickel bags the way that I did it. So if you spent 600 on a pound of weed and you bagged it up and you got, 2200, and you only spent 600, and you doing this on a scale like you buying 3 pounds, 6 pounds, 10 pounds. You do the math. You start feeling like Scarface just selling weed.
yeah, I can believe it.
But this is I call it, people think drug dealing and firearm selling, all that. it's a hard job. So why am I putting all this energy into this bullshit when I should have put all my energy into something legal because I put all my hard work into something that landed me in prison and took me away from my family for years and years and years.
Mm, man, you think it's like a because you said it's like an addiction, and I know eventually an addiction does have its negative sides and downfalls. Is it just being too far gone to the part where you don't have a choice but to keep going?
You always have a choice. The thing about breaking the law is at a certain point, you start to get to the point that barely I can sleep at night point because you
Mm,
don't know if somebody gonna kick this door in. And now and sometime at one point it was like I was jumping from hotel room to hotel room. I had left my house. My wife got mad at me about, like I said, the thing about money, money bring whores, and I use that term whores because that's what you're dealing with. They're only dealing with you because they want to get paid.
mm,
So what happens is you start doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing, and then now because you're breaking the law on such a large scale. Like I said, it came a point where I was jumping hotel room every night. I was going to a different hotel every day because the ATF was coming around like knocking on the door on a regular basis. And not only and the dangerous part about it is you don't know how much time you're looking at, and you're thinking crazy. You said, man, fuck this. They ain't gonna take me into custody. And now you got a firearm and you think to yourself, you ready to shoot it out with the police. You become insane. The
mm.
farther you go into crime, the more insane you become because now your thinking is seriously flawed, and you're a dangerous person because you're thinking like, what am I going to do if the police come?
Right.
And now, and also when you break the law, and I need to say this because you talked about family and obligation of family. Your selfish ass have put everybody in your house at risk. Because I had a home invasion when I was selling weed. When I was selling weeds and guns and all that shit, I had a home invasion. My daughter, my two daughters, my son, and my father-in-law were home. These son of a bitches kicked the window out on my bedroom, but they couldn't get out the bedroom because I had a padlock on the room that they went into.
Wow.
So let us say they was able to get out of there. What would have happened to my children and my father-in-law? Because a few guys I know, one guy he was murdered in front of his wife and kids on a home invasion. Another guy who I was supplying me with marijuana, guys killed his children's babysitter and shot him 4 times. He wound up living. Another guy I knew he was out there on the street doing stuff. These low down fools stabbed him up and set the brother on fire. But this is
Jeez.
the kind of stuff that you subject your family to because your selfish ass decided that you was too fucking lazy to go ahead on and do what you needed to do for your family on the legal side. So now you jeopardize everybody in your house safety. And that's the real side of crime. You jeopardize your own life and you jeopardize the lives of anybody. These dudes will kidnap your mother and threaten and kill your mother if you don't pay them. That's the real side of crime that people don't never really talk about.
That reminds me of I'll keep it quiet, but I had a family member that was actually I had a few family members that were involved in some things, and uh, that home invasion thing did happen to one of them. Came in at night, put the kids in the closet, had them tied up, and said that we need our money because I think it's like a head drug lord or whatever. He left some money behind because he's going to prison, so left the money with the family member. Of course, money being money, it got spent. And when the goons, yeah, when the goons came in, they said we need our money by X time at X date, or else we coming back. And I think she really got off lucky because it could have ended up like that. And to hear
Yeah,
somebody got stabbed multiple times and set on fire, that was a message. That was personal.
yeah. But he was into a thing where he was setting other dealers up with some young girl because see, men are, regardless of what people want to say, men are really moved by their loins. And a lot
Mm.
of times, depending on how she looked, she could lure you into the deep depths of hell, and you won't even know she dragging your ass into hell. And that's what happens a lot of times with men because they chasing women that they put themselves in. And that was what happened with me. A young lady that I had befriended, I paid her out of a little box I had. I had a little box under my bed. I pulled it from under it. I opened the box up. It had a lot of ones, tens, fives. It had about $800 in cash. You use that for change, man, because somebody come with a certain amount of 20 or 30 or whatever. I mean, a 20 or 50 or 100, you may have to make change.
Mm.
And she saw that, and she got together with some other people, and that's how the home invasion happened. But as I said, I just believe that some people, some of us are just lazy when it comes to doing what is right.
Yeah. Um, so looking back, what surprised you most about how normal it all felt? And was it real brotherhood when you were doing it, or was it just the appearance of it?
Honestly, when you know the term, there's no honor amongst thieves. Now,
Hmm.
if you back up, remember what I told you, my homie was doing to me. We were close. I mean, it's like, when this brother passed away, man, I was shattered, man. That's how much I love this brother. But when it came to illegal activity, that camaraderie ship, it goes out the window. Because the only thing thieves or people breaking the laws are loyal to is that money. Because a man is trying to figure out how he can get the most amount in his pocket. He's not thinking about your pockets.
Mm.
So there's no brotherhood, there's no loyalty, there's only thievery. And sometimes, like you may think a person is your friend, and next thing you know, you got them cats up in your house, and he the one sent them in there, and you told him, where you live. That was before the time of trackers and all of that. Most people got set up by people that they knew before they had. Now they sophisticated with it. But back then, people set you up. They were supposed to be your friends. But there's no brotherhood, there's no honor, there's no loyalty. Only people loyal to is the money. Men,
Mm.
men and women, males and females. And the females, a lot of times, they have some grimed out ass dude, and they set you up. They talk to the guy. The guy talk to them, say, look, boom, boom, boom. I want you to set this dude up, take him here, here, and here, the said hotel or whatever. Next thing you know, these guys got you, man. No brotherhood, no loyalty, no nothing. But
Mm.
dishonesty and selfishness. We'll use those two words: dishonesty and selfishness. Those are the words of the day when it comes to when you're breaking the law. Dishonesty and selfishness.
Mm. Um, so what's something about your story that neither the Philadelphia Weekly piece nor the ABC segment ever got to? Like the part that's only in your unpublished manuscript.
Um, let me see. I would think that I kind of concealed the part about um how I went from selling guns to where I became like probably the biggest marijuana dealer in the city of Reading. And that was done it was totally done by not even on purpose. Somebody asked me to get them a bag of weed when they said, yo, you be going to Philly, they got good weed there, get me a bag of weed. And then I went down, I told my buddy, man, these motherfuckers keep asking about weed. And he gave me $1,000 worth of weed. He said, well, it's $1,000 worth. And then when I bought the $1,000 back, he gave me $200. And I'm like, what's this? He said, oh, that's your cut, 200. He said, so you get 800 and I get two? He said, yeah, that's the split, 80-20. And he gave me another 1,000 worth. I took that, sold it, went and bought some from somebody else, flipped that, gave him his 800 and cut him out. But I would think that's the thing that I concealed. The ATF knew that I was selling weed because remember I said they tried to set me up.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times people don't really understand when the police when they're trying to get you, they use whatever tactics is possible. But I would say the only thing I never really talked about was my marijuana dealing, and I would say honestly, the amount of depression, anxiety, and I would say heartbreak that I felt, doing not I won't say doing near the end. I would say early on, the frustration, the heartache, the depression, that I went through because I felt really bad about, it's like you doing something, but you after a while you doing it, you should stop and you're not feeling good about it because man, that this is a rabbit hole you're going down that there's no escape from.
Mm.
But that's really the only thing. There's nothing really major outside of how I took myself and elevated myself with the marijuana thing. I met a guy through my nephew, and it's kind of a shame. One of my nephews, he's down in that Kingston area, strung out on drugs now. But he took me to a guy's house to buy a pound of weed. I bought 1 pound from him. I came back a couple days later, bought another pound, went back to look for my nephew. My nephew was in jail, and I knocked on the guy's door myself. He sold me 1 pound, came back a few days later, bought another pound, came back a few days later, bought another pound. And then he said, oh shit, you selling that stuff that fast? How many you think you could sell in a week? 10, 15? I said, I can't sell that much. And he gave
Wow.
me on consignment. And this is how the drug world works that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of stuff is done on consignment. I give you X amount of drugs, you bring me back X amount of money. If you don't bring my money back, I might kill your family.
Hmm. That's kind of like and I know it's a Hollywood fairy tale or whatever, but sometimes I do tend to touch on some realistic stuff. But the movies where they're talking about the Mexican drug cartels, and then matter of fact, what was the movie called? The Mule with Clint Eastwood. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes, I see it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing as like a dude gets, coerced into doing it, and at first he's hesitant, but then after a while he's like, man, okay, I'm getting the
No,
money, might
no,
as well do it, and he's buying people everything. Um,
it
but I
becomes
think,
normal.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I really think that they glamorize it too much, which kind of brings us to my next question. What's the biggest thing people get completely wrong when they imagine how that world operates?
Uh, one of the things I think that people in the in the legal world, they look at drug dealers and other criminals as being lazy people. And honestly, that is some freaking hard ass work breaking the law. Now remember, when you're selling drugs, you gotta operate like 24 hours a day. You have to be available because drug addicts don't have downtime.
Mhm.
So you have to work 24 hours a day. So if you're the boss, you have to get workers to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And you have to constantly be watching over everybody because people are going to try to steal from you.
Yep.
And one of the things that they make it like in the movies, if a guy jerks the guy out of X amount of money, or he takes the dude's drugs, a vast majority of times the drug dealer takes it on the chin. He doesn't kill nobody. He doesn't. He might smack the guy or beat him up or something. But a vast majority of time when these guys are stealing, nobody's out there blowing dudes' brains out, murdering them, and doing all this dumb shit that you see in the movies because ain't nobody really trying to go to prison. But a lot of guys, they take lots of losses, and
Mm.
they're not lazy guys. Um, let me run this. Let me say this. I got a son. One of my sons, he went to prison, and after he went to prison, he got out. He got a job for a company. He's worked his way all the way up. He was working for this company outside of Philadelphia. They relocated him to Michigan, and now he's in a management position now. So all the effort that he put in to doing wrong, he's put into doing right. And shit, he makes way more money than I do. He took his family on a trip to Hawaii. He took his family on a cruise. He got his family down here, with him right now. He makes it. The company even tried to get him to relocate right after he went to this place because they said they needed somebody solid to go to another place. But he said he just moved his family, so he didn't want to do it. But my point is, here's a young man who took all of that negative. Remember, I said earlier, we should have taken all that and put it into something legal, but it shows that he's not lazy, which people think drug dealers are lazy. They think people break the law lazy, but a lot of times it's either fueled by love of money or personal addiction to alcohol, or some kind of illegal substance. But the guys are not lazy, and that's what a lot of people think. Oh, he's just lazy. That's why he break the law. Oh, he's just lazy. That's why he break the law. But also, I'll say this right here. A lot of times, the people make the choice to go one way or the other, and people think like, he did this or he did that or he did the other. But a lot of times they feel like they have no other option because they see what's around them and they don't realize that it's not the right way to go. But they're not lazy, a lot of them. They just misguided.
Mm.
A lot of people that break the law are misguided. They're not lazy. But people feel, oh, he just sells drugs because he's lazy. No, that's not really not it. Impressed by the wrong people, looking up to the wrong people. And if a lot of times you see now, if a guy could take and put that same energy into the legal situation as an illegal, you'll see how they can excel like my son did. He changed his life around. And that's another thing I feel why I don't think that everybody can't do that. But there are a lot of guys given the opportunity, they can turn their life around.
Yeah, I think the one thing that really stands out about just this world in general is the fact that there's not really a whole lot of room for mercy. And there's always that whole all it takes is one bad day mentality that a lot of people that are living higher up, in the positions that we're talking about, lawyers, whether it's the judicial class or whatever, they don't look at the fact that, oh, he had this one bad day because he didn't have a job anymore, couldn't take care of his family, and that's what led him to doing this. They look at the end result and the end goal because I guess they look at how it affects the overall general population. So,
But I think also what people have to come to the realization of, crime is money.
mhm.
And the reason I say this, if a person does a shooting, now you got the gun manufacturer who made the gun. They made money. Now this guy shoots this person. If they live and go to the hospital and they're severely wounded, I met a guy, he was severely wounded when he was shot. His medical bill was almost $1 million. Now, the dude who did the shooting, now he's apprehended by the police who will pay. The police take him to the courthouse. You got the judge, the prosecutor, stenographer, you got clerks, you got guards, you got this person, that person, got the people up at the jail. All of these people are getting paid and making money from this one dude who had the bad day. And really, crime is money. And that's what
Mhm.
a lot of people in society don't, they want crime. Because just imagine crime disappeared tomorrow. What happened to your correction officers? What happened to your police force? What happened to your prosecutors? What happened to all your court personnel? It's a lot of people that are involved. You got 911 operators. It's a lot of people that are making money and work it because there's crime.
Mhm.
Crime is profit on the legal side.
Yeah, it is a business. You're right about that, man. Because I was actually trying to I'm still putting a series together, but I've got a series that's talking about school shootings, what leads up to them, and what prevents them. And I get a panel of people together, and one of the people on the panel, he basically said that the same thing. It's like they don't want crime to stop. At the end of the day, it's just manufactured because if you can take the incident that happened in January, January 6th, and compare the outcome of it, which is like I think they put it was a ridiculous amount of money towards this. It was about let's easily over $1 billion, right? Um, that $1 billion went to uh persecuting the people, finding the people, fortifying the White House. I'm sorry, not fortifying the White House, fortifying the Capitol, just a whole bunch of other stuff. But when you look at how money towards schools is dispersed amongst the United States, it starts out with, I think, some amount that's $1 million that trickles down into the school branches. And it's all based on how the school performs and quote unquote its need. So you may have a school that's in like a area where it's impoverished or whatever, but they look at it like, oh, that school's not doing too well, so we'll give them, I don't know, $2 out of the million. Meanwhile, another school that's got the trailers all around it and it's bustling with kids and everything and it's performing well. They're like, yeah, they need more money. But at the end of the day, all the money that they have, they still don't really put forth, and I hate to even talk about it, but it's a part of society now, unfortunately. They don't really put forth a school shooting program. And when they do, it's something that's not really strong. Like, okay, if there's a school shooter, run into the classroom and hide. I remember there's a video online. There's a black kid. He was being picked up by his mom. His mom said, "Why are you here?" And he said, "We had a school shooting drill." And they said there was a shooter in the school, and I ran and I went home. Why did you do that? Well, because I'm not going to stay inside the school when there's a shooter.
um, I will say this. One of the reasons I believe in certain communities you have a major firearm problem. Firearms aren't looked at as what they are.
Mm,
A firearm is a tool, like a hammer, a saw, you know. But people look at firearms in a real mystique type of manner. They look at firearms as being something of power because they watch these goofy ass movies and these goofy ass series that they have on different little networks. So they think that a gun is going to make them the bigger man or the
mm,
bigger woman. It's like you see videos, you see your favorite rappers and whatnot. They got the particular type of gun in their hand, but really firearms aren't taught. Well, firearms aren't looked upon like the way they should be looked upon, and this is a tool. And because they don't have access to them in certain communities, once they get a hold of them, they don't understand what it is that they have. And that's why you see all of these killings and unnecessary shootings in some communities, as opposed to other communities. Like you may see a school shooting, but this is a person who have had access to firearms all of their life. And a lot of times when you look at what happened, um, it goes back to bullying. And because they had access to the firearm, they just didn't. They got tired of the bullying and they went to school and they did what they did, as opposed to and a lot of them, they're mentally ill. The parents know that they're mentally ill and they probably shouldn't be around firearms. But it's a twofold thing. Some of them are mentally ill, some of them have been bullied, and the parents shouldn't have gave them access because they know what's going on, but then a lot of times people don't tell their parents what's going on when it comes to bullying, and they find out after the fact of what the child does. in reference to the school shootings, like you were saying.
Mm.
But I believe that firearms need to be looked at as what they are. They're a tool, and young men and women should be taught firearm safety in all communities. All communities, not just some communities. Some kids have access to firearms from the time they're small children, and they understand what a firearm is. Some communities, the first time a guy have a firearm when he ordered his ghost gun offline, and that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, you right about that.
And he just ordered a ghost gun, and this fool don't got no idea of what he has until he's standing in court, and they told him, well, yeah, you got to stay in prison the rest of your life. Oh, what you mean? Can I go home? No, you're never going home.
Mm.
Because he made a stupid decision because he didn't understand what it was that he was dealing with. He seen too many goddamn videos and too many old stupid ass movies. This ain't no goddamn movie. This is real life. You don't leave when you go to prison.
You're right.
After you die, they're going to let you leave. Or you're very old, and then they may let you leave. But you threw your life away because you really didn't understand what you was doing. You thought it was cool to run around with your pistol, and you shot somebody. Scared, and shot somebody.
Yeah, you're right about that. Mm. On that topic of that ghost gun, what do people not understand about the difference between their firearm, which they quote unquote brought legally, registered and trained with, and a firearm moving through the underworld?
Um, when it comes to the ghost guns, the difference is like if you buy a Glock from Glock, they had a bunch of engineers sit down together, and they took every single piece that's in that gun. They made sure that it's going to work right, that the sliders are going to come off the gun and hit you in your face and kill you. The gun is not going to more than likely blow up in your hand. When it comes to the ghost gun, they did engineering with it, but it's not on the same level as if you bought it already put together by the company. But the ghost guns, the thing is with them, it's kind of funny. Like with this ghost gun thing, a lot of people don't understand. They're not as good as the firearms you buy. Like I said, that you if you buy a Colt or AR-15, a Colt AR-15 is something way different. A Bushmaster AR-15 is way different than the ghost gun you made at your kitchen table. The AR-15 ghost gun that's made of this frame may be made out of plastic. Some of them are made out of metal. But the real side of it, the engineering that goes into firearms is way above what people actually understand that are buying ghost guns. You're not getting the same quality as if you buy a Colt AR, or you buy a Colt 1911, or you buy a Glock 17, or Glock 19, or Glock 20, or Glock 21. People don't understand. These are very, very smart men, and they do thousands of hours of testing with these guns. And with the Glock itself, it got years and years and years and years of re-engineering from learning from different mistakes and say, oh, we need to change this. We need to change that. We need to do this. We need to do that to make them better. And that's kind of crazy. You said make them better because they only designed for one purpose, that is to kill. But the ghost gun doesn't have the engineering that the firearms are bought in the store. But say that again. It was something about that question. Say the question again.
What do people not understand about the difference between their firearm, which they brought legally, registered it, and trained with, and a firearm that's moving on in the underworld?
A lot of times,
And
also the firearm in the underworld. You buy a gun in the underworld. Firearm, you go to the store. You the law-abiding citizen. You don't have to worry if it's been used in 2, 3 murders.
mm,
You don't have to worry about if it's stolen. there's a lot of different things could happen to you if you buy a firearm illegally in the street. You could go to prison for a crime that you didn't commit because you can't account for your whereabouts at a particular time. Or they say, yeah, the guy, oh yeah, that looked like the guy that did the shooting. Yeah, that looked like the guy that did the shooting. That looks like him. But the guy that did the shooting, who you thought was your man's, he sold you the gun for $50, and you thought I got a Glock 17 for $50, and you thought that you got a good deal. But he already knew he killed somebody with it. Now your stupid ass got caught with it. There's a lot of variables, when you're talking about illegal guns. And I would never recommend nobody to buy an illegal firearm. I wouldn't even recommend to a guy. I would think that you have to know what your rights, what your status is when it comes to your rights before you be doing anything. And a lot of people don't understand. Even the ghost guns, or the so-called ghost guns, you got to check what the laws is where you live at, because you might get jammed up with one of them things. And thinking you haven't broken the law, you may not have broken the law, but they may have changed something in the law yesterday that you didn't know about.
Yeah. So would you say that if there's any gray area between these two worlds, or is the line a lot clearer than people want to admit whenever it comes to the firearms in the
I, I
legal
think
world? And go ahead.
I think the line. I think there's always gray areas, but as I said earlier, if you know what your status is, I would recommend you go to your neighborhood gun shop and buy the firearm. And one of the things about the ghost gun is you're putting this thing together in your house. If you can legally buy a firearm, there's no need for you to be messing around with some faulty engineering, because you have to worry about that slide coming off. You have to worry about that gun exploding. You don't know how much testing was did with that particular gun. You have to be very careful. So to me, there's no gray area. It's always better to go to the store and get the original. Who wants a fake pair of Jordans?
Yeah.
Like really? Well, why the fuck are
Yeah.
you? Why you buying? Why you making a fake ass gun in your house? Okay, yeah. The people who can't buy them, okay, yeah, they can't buy one. You can go buy a gun. Take your ass to the gun shop and get something that you know the engineering that went into it is 100%. No gray area. The gray area is stupid com- compared to smart. Smart and
Yeah.
stupid. The gray area is smart and stupid. Which one are you? Go to take your ass to the store and buy a real gun and leave that shit alone. And go ahead.
Well, I think sometimes a lot of people get because we live in an era where, it's just as good. So I think a lot of people, they look at that deal and they're like, oh, it's just as good. And, they think they walk away with something that is going to work. But, you know,
A Glock, they got Glocks that they've ran 100,000 rounds through, 150,000 rounds through. That comes from Glock Gaston's engineering of that gun. And
mm,
they put that thing together very, very well. And what a guy has to understand is you can't be putting no gun together at your kitchen table and think you're getting the same thing as you getting that these people spent thousands of hours of engineering to make. But also, I believe that, and let me say this, I believe that with the ghost guns, I believe it all was a plot. I believe, like, just like crack and all that other stuff, they showed these ghost guns on the news. They talked about it in the paper, and then after thousands of them hit the street, all of a sudden, oh, we got to change the law. Oh, the criminals are buying the ghost gun. No, mother effer, you knew the criminals was going to buy the ghost gun. That's why you had it on the front page of the paper. That's why you had it on the news. This guy, and sadly, a whole bunch of underage kids who don't know what the fuck they're doing are buying these things, putting them together. Some of them are shooting themselves. They're killing other kids. And people say, oh, well, these are for the law abiding citizen. No, The criminal is going to buy this. The young person who can't go into the store, who isn't 21, is going to buy this. You release the cracking on the street.
Mm.
Seriously, and I'm so sick and tired of all this fake ass shit when it comes to the government. And this is for the law-abiding citizen. No, this is the law-abiding citizen. No, you know it's not for the law-abiding citizen. The company that makes them know the law-abiding citizens is not going to buy it. Why? I could go to the store and buy me a Glock. Why don't I buy some old fake ass Glock with a slide that's made out of some uh composite who knows what it is? And that's what people don't understand. A lot of these slides and stuff aren't even made out of real metal.
Mm. So I'm just curious. Whenever it comes to the underworld and race, I mean, did you deal with any racism? Did it matter? Were you only selling to like one set of people, or was it like different groups?
Friend of mine told me, he said particularly, he said the Hispanic guys were going to tell on me, and which they did. One of the things people don't understand about crime, the black guys, they don't give a fuck about us. The Spanish guys will tell on you. The white guys will tell on you. The black guys will tell on you too. But your chances are greater of getting cooperated against by people who are outside of your race.
Mm.
Because the Spanish guys, a lot of Spanish guys and white guys, to cooperate against a black guy, to cooperate with the police against a black guy isn't the same thing as bringing another Hispanic guy to jail. They don't give a fuck about us. So, oh, you told on a nigga, so what? Excuse my expression.
Nah, tell it like it is, man. Tell it like it is.
Said, they look at us as not being the same. Oh, just tell on the nigga over there and you'll get a deal. And that's really what the way that federal system was set up at. Oh man, it was insane. They had an article on where Janet Reno, I think it was Janet Reno, said to where I live at is called the Eastern District. And in the feds, it's called the Eastern District. They had a directive sent out. They said they were making so many deals out of the Eastern District. They said, hold up, you can't be making all these giving out all these 5K1s. A 5K1 is if you give substantial cooperation to the police and to the prosecutor to help bring in other criminals, they'll give you a reduced sentence. That's why Sammy the Bull got 5 years for 19 murders. They gave him what was called a 5K1 to cooperate against the mafia. But once you get that 5K1, they said you will agree to testify or give any information now, or if we need you later to come and cooperate and testify, you'll come and cooperate and testify later.
Wow. Wow. There you go. That makes sense. So,
Go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I said no gray area, man. Like there's no gray area. Everybody knows what's going on. Now, maybe not the fools in the street, but the people with the suits on know what's going on.
Because, like you said, crime is it's a business. It makes money.
It's business.
Mm.
It's just business.
So, I remember earlier you were saying that there was like a moment where you know you should stop, but you don't really listen to it. You still keep going. Um, was there a moment like that for you when you realized you're crossing something you couldn't walk back from?
I'll be honest with you. Like I said, it crime is narcotic. It's like it's a drug, and you want to stop, but I could go get X amount of stuff, and I could come home with a couple grand in my pocket, and now my lady's going to give me some better loving because I have some money in my pocket. The guys in the street, they're going to give me the fake false love because I'm coming through with the product that they need, and they act like they like you. They don't really give a shit about you. They care about what it is you have. and everything in your life is built on it's a house of cards.
Mm.
It's built on, it's a castle of sand. It's eventually going to crumble because everything is false. But I
Man.
know with me, it was early on. I knew I had fucked up, but I was like, oh man, hell with it. I'm going to jail forever anyway. After you done sold about 50 of them, you figure you're going to jail forever anyway. You're not knowing that the law working in your favor.
Hey, it's gonna sound kind of weird, but I mean, I think with crime being a business, maybe that's why they keep allowing it to happen because it's bringing money in one way or another. So they're like, well, it's illegal, but he's making sales and money is moving into the community, so let him
That's
keep
all
doing
good.
it.
You know, I met a lawyer, and you know what he told me?
Hmm.
He said if you don't have about 200 grand, I recommend you don't carry a gun. He said because if you shoot somebody, well, let me back up. Carry a gun illegally. He said
Hmm.
because if a guy carrying a gun illegally and shoots somebody, he's going to jail. Now, if you're a law-abiding citizen with the paperwork and sanctioning from the government to carry your gun, and you shoot somebody, depending upon how that situation goes down, you'll go home to your family. Now, if there's a gray area, you're going to need that 200 grand. But he says that's about what you need to get started with to
Mm.
fight a murder case effectively. He said to get started with.
Dang.
It's about what you need. He said if you spend less than that, you're not going to get a good defense.
Sound
Can't
like you
fight a murder case for $10,000.
better make sure everything's legal if that's the case. Man,
Yeah,
that's a house. You said 200,000, right?
that's what he said, about 200 grand. That's what you're going to need if you shoot somebody because they're going to try to bring the whole building down on your head. And you're looking at anywhere from, we'll say, 5 years to the rest of your life in jail if you kill somebody, depending upon the circumstances. And I had one of my son's friends, and I'll show you how funny the law is. He was in a store. A guy started attacking him. He had a gun on him. He shot the guy. The guy got the gun away from him. He ran out the store. The guy died. Police looked at the tape. They said it was self-defense, but they was looking for the guy that did the shooting. I took him down to a lawyer's office. The lawyer called the police. They said, we don't understand why he left. You know, we looked at the tape. This is clear self-defense. Now, here's the funny part. He did almost 10 years in jail. You know why? He was a prohibited person. He wasn't allowed to have a firearm.
Oh,
So in the video, when he pulled the firearm off his person, the video helped him and hurt him all at the same time. So he went to jail for the firearm, but not the killing. The killing was legal, the firearm was illegal. That's the insanity that you have with our laws. The problem
so
is that.
okay, that's so okay. I understand what you're saying. I'm just that is weird because what would happen if, like, let's take the top shooting at Buffalo that happened a couple of years ago, right? Let's say the shooter went into the building, he had a firearm jam, so he threw the firearm down onto the floor, continued to go to work with his assault his rifle, you know. Um, Meanwhile, one of the civilians inside the grocery store finds the handgun, finds a way to unjam it, ends up killing the shooter. Would they be within legal rights, or would they fall into that prohibited person area? Because I mean, let's say they're 13 and they do it. I mean, would that still be? God, that is the stupidest thing.
If you the funny part is if someone throws a gun down and you're a prohibited person and they are in the commission of a crime and you use that firearm to stop that person who's committing that crime, like you just walking by or you in the store, whatever, at that point, you would not have probably more than likely broken the law because you didn't bring the firearm. Now, if you pull your firearm out your person, we understand you stopped him, but you're not supposed to have a gun. We sorry, we got to put you in jail.
Yeah, that's laws for you, man. Um,
Yeah,
oh shoot, where my questions go? Yeah, that's
yeah.
crazy, especially with the number of increased shootings that are going on right now. Because the one that happened in Twins Falls recently, there was a lady that picked up. It was kind of the scenario I was talking about, but the shooter dropped his handgun because it jammed up. So then she took the handgun and tried to utilize it and tried to shoot him, but she couldn't figure out how to unjam it. Um, and that whole thing in itself was crazy because you had, looking back at the video, there was a lot of times where, as much as firearms are glamorized in this society, there's a lot of people that didn't really know what to do or how to handle the situation.
Mhm.
Um, because the shooter actually ended up, he walked from the In-N-Out Burger, ended up going into uh like a park area or something, like a hiking park or whatever, right? Um, and it was close to somebody's place of business, and there were employees coming down the trail, and one employee was literally probably about maybe 10, 15 feet away from the shooter, who still had their rifle. The shooter wasn't really paying attention to the person that was close to him. He was looking at the employees coming from down the hill. And as he's looking at the employees, the person that's 10 to 15 feet away from him is just still standing there trying to talk to him and not do anything. I mean,
Got to talk to him for it. Dude is on a murderous rampage.
yeah, yeah, trying to, I guess, talk him out of shooting his employees. I don't know, but I guess it goes back to that whole thing of you either fight, flight, or you freeze. And in a
Yeah.
sense, I think that person kind of froze.
Most people freeze.
Mm. But you also did have some people fighting back, which um God, I can't remember the guy's name. Jordan Farinas, I think. But he was one of the guys that was shooting back at the shooter and provided some cover fire. And the whole two-way space is kind of up in arms about that. They're like, you should shoot, but you shouldn't shoot, or you shouldn't shoot. It's like, end of the day,
There's a
if you
lot
get,
that goes along with that.
yeah, but you got the tool. Um, I would think that if the area is cleared out, now granted, I mean, you don't know if there's people in the cars or whatnot, but regardless, if you're trying to stop somebody who is causing a lot of mass casualties and you're proficient with your firearm, I mean, I just don't see why you wouldn't try and stop that person because that what's it called? That suppressive fire actually did cause the shooter to just say, you know what, I'm done, and took himself out the game. So I don't
I
know.
just I think that if you are a gun owner, the first thing you need to do is you need to find you a good firearm course. Like I know the guy Masad AU, a friend of mine took his course. He had to go to Connecticut. We lived in Pennsylvania, but he went to Connecticut and took his course. And you need to be abreast of all what the laws are, and you need to have your lawyer card in your pocket, and you need
Hmm.
to have all vital phone numbers written down on that card. Because if you and you got to remember this right here, if you ever get into a situation and something happened, do not try to explain what happened. Wait for your attorney. Do not
Hmm.
talk to the police. You just tell the police, I respectfully decline to answer any questions at this time. I want my attorney present before any questioning happen, because it may be a situation where you thought what you did was legal, but they might be trying to put your ass in prison, especially when you got a suntan.
I wouldn't say that one. I'm using that from now on. But yeah.
Yeah, you have to be very careful because you just shot somebody.
Hmm.
And the deal is, were you in your right to shoot that person? What, even like they say about police, excessive force, we have to be very careful because we don't know if we used excessive force or not.
Right.
What's going to be perceived as excessive force?
Yeah, especially since they're gonna look at your character and everything you did. Put one wrong post on social media, they might try and demonize you for the entire case.
Yes,
But
you
yeah.
have to be very careful because like you may have done the right thing, but you don't you when you're in a situation where you're afraid, your mind is just so foggy. What you think happened is not always what happened. I remember at work, a co-worker of mine said, uh, well, the supervisor asked my co-worker, uh, do you remember what happened when you snatched the book from the lady? He said, I remember she was waving a book in my face. I snatched the book from him. He never realized when he snatched the book, he smacked his own self in the face
Mm.
because the situation was a heightened situation. So I work on an inpatient psychiatric unit. So the lady was trying to hit him with the book and he snatched it from her, but he smacked his own self in the face. And said he never remembered hitting himself with the book.
Probably had the adrenaline spike and then.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You in a height, and you was up here, so you better wait till your lawyer come before you try to explain anything.
Mhm.
Might go to prison, but you
Especially
need to.
since we got flock cameras and all sorts of other technology nowadays, they can easily say, "Oh yeah, well this is what you really did."
Yeah,
So
you have to know. It's a great responsibility to carry a firearm, and I don't think people understand the responsibility that you put on your shoulders when you strap a gun on you every day. You have I'm not going to say you bear the same kind of responsibility that a police officer does when you strap a
mm,
gun on, because you have to know damn sure that it was justified when you remove that gun, because that gun shouldn't be coming out that holster unless you feel like it's a uh, unless you need to use it. It should never
yeah,
be that holster because you can't use it to scare nobody. When it come out of that holster, you better be realizing that if that thing start barking, you just change your life forever.
mm,
And I don't think people realize if you kill somebody, I've talked to people that have killed people, and it's not what you think. Like you see Jason Statham and all of these guys in the Rocky them doing all these shootings in these movies, and Denzel as the equalizer, and he's killing these people. No, you're going to have nightmares after you kill somebody, from what a lot of people tell me. It's going to take a long time to get that out of your mind, especially if you're a good person.
mm,
See, if you're not a bad person, see, bad people do stuff and they don't feel nothing. But if you're a good person, even this person that was trying to do something to your family, you just took a person's life. And that's the ultimate thing that happens in society. You took something that took months and months to develop, and you took it in a matter of seconds. So you gotta take a good firearms course, because you gotta understand that this is something serious. And do you really want to be carrying this gun?
right.
Do you really want to carry this gun? Do you want this gun in your house? Because
I absolutely agree with that.
Because not
I
only
do.
you have to worry about being proficient with it, you have to make sure that your children and your wife are all trained, the whole household. You can't
Mm,
say the gun is for me and nobody else is to touch it. Everybody has to understand the severity of having a firearm in the home. That's a serious situation. That's a serious discussion. That's supposed to be a family discussion.
mm. I definitely agree, especially like once you get it and you make sure your family's trained, you need to just make sure you've got, I'd even go a step further and make sure that you've got some medical knowledge because you don't know who's going to get hit, what you have to do, what you have to handle, who's going to be in shock. Need to have definitely need to have a plan of action inside the house. So if you are going to be the one that utilizes the firearm, what is the rest of your family going to do? I don't think it would be a good idea for them to just kind of,
Just stand
um,
there looking.
right, right. There needs to be an exit plan or something. Or while you are utilizing the firearm, make sure they got an escape plan so you can kind of hold down the fort or get them into a secure place inside the house. Just there needs to be a plan. You can't just go out there hope for the best like some of these movies. You know, you see them coming out with a Benelli and they're like, okay, I got everything under control, no problem. Don't leave the closet. And then there's no code language, there's no real set plan. It's just all Hollywood action.
Yeah,
You know, real life don't work like that. What happens if you're not the main character of the movie? You know, what happens if you get taken out?
I think the whole family has to understand that also once the event has once everything is over, no one can talk to the police. Not the children, not the wife, not the husband. Nobody talks to police till the attorney. Attorney is on site. And the
Mm,
attorney said, okay, I need to know from you what happened. And that's the first person who you're supposed to convey this information to. And no one is to talk to police, not the children, not anybody in the household. Because, like I said, if the guy's laying out the door, depending on the way he's laying, they may say you shot him outside. He didn't fall
mm,
out the door. Depending on he shot in the house, did you drag him back in the house? The police are going to look at all variables. So,
yep.
like I said, firearm ownership is something that most Americans don't realize how serious it is, and it's not um something you should take lightly.
Mm. Yeah, definitely agree. I'd even go a step further. I would say don't even talk to your friends, don't even talk to your family until after that lawyer's talked to.
But you know what's funny though?
Mm,
Even after the event, that stays in the house because
hmm
the wife, or you could say something to a person, and they go call the detective, say, yeah, well, he told me this, this, and this.
Exactly.
And now all of a sudden, the case you thought that was going to be nothing, now it done turned into something because you've been running your mouth.
hmm
Yeah, it's a hell of a thing, man.
Yeah, but like you said, there's always rules for law-abiding citizens. So,
Yeah, well,
uh,
you're a law-abiding citizen. You got to remember that you play by the rules.
mhm,
You ain't the equalizer.
true. So, what finally made you stop? And what's the one consequence, whether it's big or small, that followed you the longest?
I got locked up. That's how I stopped. I was selling marijuana up until the week I got arrested. Um, Firearms I had kind of fell back from because the weed was so lucrative. I didn't have to do that shit no more. But the thing that follows you forever, and I'll say this: once you break the law, you receive a life sentence. You lose certain rights in society. You certain crimes you can't live in certain communities. You're a prohibited person now. You go to fill out an application for a job. You may not be able to get this job because they have a prohibited persons list. Like on my job, they have a prohibited persons list. If you've ever been arrested for any of these crimes, you're prohibited from working here. You can't live in certain communities because they have a prohibited persons list. I went to Delaware and I was going to get an apartment there. On the application, it says if you have been arrested for selling drugs in the past 99 years, you're ineligible to live on this property. So, what a lot of people don't understand is not only do you fuck yourself, you fuck your family because now your family can't live certain places if they bring your criminal ass with them.
Mm,
Your family you can't get certain jobs to elevate yourself because you committed certain types of crime. You can't get money for school because you committed certain types of crime. Um, there's a lot that goes on that's life changing when you break the law that follows you until they arrest you out forever. Just think about it. You broke the law at 27. You're 59, 69, and you're still bound. because of that crime you committed when you was 27 years old, when you was 19 years old, when you was 18 years old, when you was 30 years old. That situation follows you the rest of your life. And that's the thing that most people don't understand. When you break the law, that you create life-changing situation with yourself that's going to follow you forever.
Mm.
But nobody stops. When the police come, motherfuckers stop. Arrest stop you. That's what stop you. Going to jail. You're not thinking about stopping. You're making money. You're having a good time. You're chasing whores, man. You gambling. You riding in the car. You got the jewelry on. You're not stopping until they come and arrest you. It feels too good.
Mm.
It's almost like having sex all day long when you're out there selling drugs and breaking the law and selling guns, and that money is coming in. I would think if they would have had looked at your brain, you'd have had the same arousal as if you would have had a pretty girl.
Yeah, shoot. Hey, Jerome, we okay on time?
Yeah. I guess we got a little bit left. I don't even know what time it is.
It's I'm just making sure you're good on your side. It looks like it's 12:29.
Oh wow, yeah, I gotta wrap up. I got somewhere to be at 1.
All right, man.
I mean, we could get together again if you want to.
Yeah, you know what? I would love because I still got so many questions, and on top of that, you're dropping so much. I mean, if you would be fine with that, yes, I would love to have you back. Not just for this show, not just for the next show, but like if you ever want to come back on a podcast, I'd love to have
I
you
mean,
back.
whenever. See, my thing is like, I just want to try to enlighten people, those who are law-abiding citizens, even those who are get ready to turn 21, and they can't wait to buy their first gun. That's a serious decision, and I think that we have to understand when it comes to guns, man. We need we need law enforcement, even though a lot of us don't want to admit it. We need law enforcement, and we need to keep people like me from bringing guns to those people in the street who shouldn't have them, because there are a lot of people. I want to be honest with you, and I'll tell you. I'll say this before we go. I was in prison, and there are a couple incidences that stuck with me really, really hard, and kind of changed my state of mind.
Mhm.
One was a guy came to me and he said, Aki, I'm never going home. I said, what do you mean you ain't never going home? He said, I never getting out of prison. And I looked at him, he had tears in his eyes. His mother had just passed away.
Mm.
I wanted to hug him, man, but jail, can't be hugging no motherfucker. but this young man, he was only 20 something years old. And he
Mm.
was telling me he was going to die in prison. And he came to the reality of that. And then another time, I had a situation where this guy was talking to, and he was mad because he couldn't go get parole. And I said, well, what did you do? He said, I killed this bitch. And I like kind of said, you did what? He said, I killed this bitch. I said, nigga, you killed the woman, man. You got to make these people believe you had a change of heart. They ain't never going to let you out until they think. But I realized at that point, prison was very necessary.
Mm.
It's a couple incidences, like I said. That guy made me realize prison was necessary. And the other guy made me realize that you shatter your life for one stupid decision. I mean, somebody sleeping with your woman, somebody robbing you for a couple dollars ain't worth the rest of your life. And that's what prison really taught me, that it's so many of us that tossed our life down the shithole for no reason. And honestly, it's a sad thing. A guy told me one day, and like I said, there's several incidents. We went to a jail, the jail Bill Cosby was at. I was there.
Mm.
And so they took us from the receiving area to a unit, where all the people who committed parole violation was on. And the brother leaned into me. He said, "Aki," he said, "all of these guys was home. And it's hundreds of guys, hundreds of them that was on the street." And I'm thinking to myself, why couldn't these guys stay on the street? There was hundreds of them. And I realized, man, when I was in prison, man, that, this isn't what we think it is. This isn't what we believe it is. It's a hell of a situation, man. Some of them need to be there. Some of them maybe can be reformed. But then I got to say to myself, leaning on the side of those who I don't agree with all the time, is Congress wrong for doing this? Is the State House wrong for doing that? Is the president wrong for doing this? Is the governor wrong for doing that? Is the mayor wrong for doing this? It's a lot of fuckery going on in society, and we have to be careful because we have to protect society from people like me.
Mm-hmm.
I put like maybe 500 firearms on the street selfishly for no reason. And some of them, sadly, they say were involved in crimes. One guy, he bought a gun from me. 8 hours later, he murdered somebody.
Wow.
And that's something that's hard for you to have to sleep with every day. Now, I'll be honest with you. I went through a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, and, a lot of soul searching after doing what I did because, you're like, damn, I don't even know why I did this, man. I should have never done this. And thinking in hindsight is 2020. But if I had the chance to go back, I wouldn't have never did what I did. I mean, I wish I could turn the clock back, but you can't. And it's a lot of guys, like I said, need to be in jail, man. And I realized that going to prison, man. There's some dangerous individuals out there, and prison is, sorry to say, necessary. It's a necessary evil. Not saying everybody deserves to be there. There's some cats, man, that I'm sorry, you wouldn't want to have them living next door to you. And I've talked with them and I've interacted with them. You don't want them living next door to you because they're a threat to you and your whole family. I'll leave you with this though, and I'll show you how crime is. A guy I met in federal prison, his first federal bid, he went in for selling drugs. He got out. He went from Ohio to New York, bought a couple kilos of cocaine. He got arrested in Fort Lee, New Jersey, did another 10 years in jail. After doing that 10, he got out. He hooked up with a Mexican guy from one of the cartels, and he went to prison again. He just got out recently. I think he's about in his early 80s or late 70s, early 80s. He get off parole when he's something like 95. He spent his entire life in jail, and you know what he told me? He said, "Man, I ain't worried about that bullshit." He said, "Man, once I'm on parole, I'm back at it." And so it makes you wonder, man, who's wrong? Is the Congress wrong for saying, yeah, we want to make these people prohibited people forever? Because there's too many of them who are not going to reform.
Mm.
I'll leave you with that, man.